crises are taking place are faced with many realities that cannot be denied. To build a peaceful future for us and for our next generations, we are exerting sincere efforts. And when we expect support from all sections, unfortunately, we are facing groundless attacks. Recently, in the EU and the USA, there have been certain statements about the possible sanctions, and these have been upsetting for us. But Turkey expects the EU not to go for sanctions, but fulfill its promises for the full accession of Turkey into the EU. We expect the same from the USA, not sanctions to be imposed on Turkey, but support our struggle against the terrorist organizations and the terrorist activities ongoing in our region. We neither have problems with our neighbors, nor have we concerns or interest for conflicts with our neighboring countries. For our own safety, for our own welfare and peace, we struggle, and this goes the same for our efforts for our region. But of course, our rights, our sovereignty, our laws, of course, cannot be violated, and it does not mean that we will keep silent in the face of these. We never have eyes on the rights of others, and we will never allow anyone to usurp our rights either. Therefore, from Libya to the Eastern Mediterranean, from Black Sea to Caucasus, we have been running activities of large scale, and we are expediting our efforts to protect our own interests, but on the other hand, to advocate for all other brothers and sisters who have their hopes set on us. When there is oppression, persecution, and unrest, we exert efforts to build peace. Our history has been a source of inspiration for centuries to many, and our struggle today also is a source of inspiration for many and gives hope to many. From Gaza to Arakan, from the Balkans to Karabakh, our red and crescent flag flies high for justice, for freedom, for fight for liberties. What happens in Upper Karabakh shows how important our decisive stance is. Just like a century ago, commanded by Nuri Pasha, Turkey has supported its Azerbaijani brothers and sisters. The Caucasus Islam Army was met by Azerbaijan, and Ahmet Jawad is the poet of the Azerbaijani national anthem, and he expressed, "These mountains are covered with our stones, our rocks. Over the seas we have marked our salam. We walked into the skies. We walked towards the sun. We smiled on brotherhood, fraternity. We rushed to the help of the downtrodden. In the dark, faith shed light on your path, and on that path you reached out to your goals. March, march to the freedom of your homeland. The sun will rise to smile at you." So these were the feelings that helped Turkey and Azerbaijan embrace one another as real, true brothers and sisters, and build a new bridge that is structured from the past into the future. Our Azerbaijani brothers and sisters, for 44-day-long struggle for their independence, have crowned their struggle with success. Azerbaijani territories occupied for more than 30 years have now come to an end. Every moment of those 44 days was full of heroic success, and this victory has many important meanings in terms of politics and military. Karabakh is no longer a part of a frozen dispute, but is a glorious victory that has been garnered after a lot of struggle. An Azerbaijani flag, after 30 years, now has been hoisted up high to wave with pride from Lachen to Shusha, from Fuzuli to Kalbajar. All areas of Karabakh, thanks God, have now been adorned with calls for prayer. With the liberation of Upper Karabakh, the doors of a new era in Caucasus now have been opened. And hopefully, instead of conflict, peace; instead of tension, cooperation; instead of dispute or hostility, good neighboring relations oriented status quo will be established, will be put in place in Karabakh. Upon the kind invitation of my dear brother Ilham Aliyev, we paid a visit to Azerbaijan, and our visit are of many important meanings. During the victory parade, the late Haydar Aliyev's principle was articulated, and we all together saw once again that one nation, two states principles stand as clear as daylight. On the balconies, on the facades of the buildings, on the streets, many brothers and sisters, Azerbaijani brothers and sisters, were brimming with joy for victory, and we joined them in their success, in their victory. We commemorated 100 civilian brothers and sisters and more than 2,000 Azerbaijani soldiers who fell for their homeland. And we once again showed the whole world that Azerbaijan and Turkey stands as one heart and as one fist. In the international platforms and for the other countries, we also talked about the roadmap we are to follow with my dear brother Aliyev. In the liberated territories of Azerbaijan, a new restoring, rebuilding, possible activities were addressed during our meetings. For media and for other fields of investment, we signed agreements, and now our citizens will be able to travel from one country to the other with their identity cards only, without the need for a visa issuance or whatsoever. The deals signed are going to further strengthen our cooperation in every field, in particular in the field of defense and industry. Using this opportunity, I once again would like to thank to my dear brother Ilham Aliyev for his kind invitation. I would like to thank to him personally on behalf of my wife, on behalf of my nation, and I would like to extend all those thanks to him and his wife and the people of Azerbaijan. And we send our greetings from here for their motherland, for their flag. Heroes of Azerbaijani army put their lives at risk, lost their lives, and I pray for the mercy of God on the souls of our fallen soldiers and wish for a quick recovery to the wounded. And on behalf of my nation, and I personally would like to once again congratulate the people of Azerbaijan, the military of Azerbaijan. The countries of the region should feel the happiness for the end of a 30-year-long conflict. And we invite them, we make a call on them to feel that happiness. And I am grateful to God, for He has blessed us with such a victory. And in Borantan disaster, the single party CHP brought a dark mark of disgrace in our history, and I am grateful again to God that He has blessed us with the ability to erase that dark mark off of our history. And we will, with all means at hand, continue to stand with our sisterly, dearly country, Azerbaijan. At the UN General, at the Turkish National Assembly, there are now talks for the budget ongoing for the next periods to come, and I hope that all those talks and negotiations taking place at the Grand National Assembly will be auspicious for our country. Due to the pandemic, a global outbreak, of course, is taking place, and we prepared our plans and our drafts during such a challenging era. Just like for every global crisis, there have been many negative evaluations about our country, but we have always taken a very different, distinctive approach. For example, in 2008, the developing and the developed countries, all of them faced a very significant financial crisis, and we always said that we recovered from that crisis very strongly and emerged even stronger out of it. And if you pay attention, you would see that in the following years we have compensated for what we had lost with extra surplus figures brought in. And I said that as I was serving as the Prime Minister of the country, and as the President now, I speak the same. The international organizations now have started to bring their ratings to the levels, to the figures we we're talking about. But of course, our purpose is not that. Our only purpose is in this new structuring era of the world order to bring our country to the desired level it deserves. Turkey has made many strides, and during the phase of the pandemic, during this challenging, rough time, we have once again saw the importance of a strong infrastructure in many fields, including health, and Turkey has been seeking after many innovation, and Turkey comes among the first who takes all these into account. We manage the process not by only judging by the pandemic, but by taking all potential outcomes into consideration. And our biggest guideline is our 2023 vision. Production, investment, employment, export, and growth are the pillars on which our economy has been structured, and I hope that our budget will be auspicious for our people, for our country. My great nation, in the global economy, maybe we are going through a very historic time which will be written into the history books. The crisis that started with the pandemic has never made a distinction among the developed, developing, or underdeveloped countries, and it has been distorting all the values, tourism, employment, income, revenue generation, and many other indicators have now bottomed. And with the impact of all these, we know that the global economy is expected to shrink by 4%, even over 4%. Of course, there are developments that make the whole world happy. Every step taken for the success of the development of vaccine has a potential to bring about a strong recovery. Just like now, no matter what kind of a strong crisis we face, Turkish economy will emerge stronger in the face of new challenges that come our way, and new worst case scenarios that might come our way. Therefore, we will always remain alert and cautious, and always stand with our people. We very much know what our weaknesses and strengths are in our economy. As we further strengthen strengthening our strengths, we are taking all other necessary precautions for the weaknesses. And for the post-pandemic period, we are determined to enter into the new era as a strong global main actor. And I ask my nation to trust in us and our economy administration in spite of all those pessimism passed around by some. With the effects of the normalization steps and also credit lines provided in the first quarter of the year, we have registered a growth of 6.7%. The EU, G20, and OECD, among all these countries and groups. Turkey has now this way been the first country that grew the most in the third quarter of the year. In terms of the investments for equipment, on an annual basis, we have registered a 23% of increase. Despite the conditions of the pandemic in the first 11 months of the year, in our organized industrial zones, 851 new facilities started operating, and we have registered more than 13,000 new companies, facilities, which have become operational. And so far, uh, we have more than 4,000 new facilities under construction now. These are all good developments for production, and we see the reflection of those on employment rates and jobs. The precautions we have taken for the labor force, and also thanks to the incentives for employment, the unemployment rates on a year-on-year basis decreased by 1.1% and has been registered and at a lower figure. But in spite of all these, we are aware that we haven't still fully mobilized all our potential. For our young and also for women, we will be prioritizing policies that will help the employment rates for those as well. Of course, the third quarter growth also shows that the growth needs to be well balanced, of high quality, and as well sustainability. With no doubt, with lower growth figures, you can ensure macroeconomic stability. However, we believe that we should materialize growth and stability together combined. Our biggest trade partner, Europe, first with it, and also in many parts of the world, the pandemic has been showing a spike, a surge, which makes it difficult for us all, of course. And our foreign, of course, trade has been impacted by the global developments, as this goes the same for many in the world. But in spite of all, to continue with our investment, employment, and also production, we will continue to take measures and walk towards our targets. Since the day when the first pandemic cases were registered, we have always stood with our people, our businessmen, our business people. And within the framework of social protection shield, we have provided almost 45 billion liras of incentives. And we have also put many financial assistance packages into practice to help our people to work, to produce, to continue businesses. Are actions that everyone will have an answer for. And anyone who says so will always receive a response. Who are willing to so will receive a response from our state authorities. And the fact that some deny it does not change the reality. And just like yesterday, today as well, we continue to support our industrialists, our craftsmen, our shopkeepers, our retailers. And we expect our nation to make their savings in Turkish lira currency. So Turkish lira deposit and participation accounts, share of interests were brought down for income taxes, and the income taxes instead of 15% was brought down to 5%, and for the other accounts down to 3%, and they will be in practice until the end of March. And recently, we have been observing that there is more confidence for Turkish lira-oriented assets, and we have been taking steps with many market-friendly companies. And this way, we see that there is a reduction in risk premiums and interest and appetite for investment, as well as value, an increase in the value of Turkish lira. And this critical period that our country faces is, of course, requiring us all to convert all we have into Turkish liras. We expect our nation to convert to Turkish lira and support our struggle. Over the recent years, we see the international investors have made an introduction of $11 billion worth of capital into the country. When it comes to treasury bonds and stakeholder bonds, the total volume of that has now been standing at a worth of $2 billion, and the international communities are expected to show further interest in Turkish lira based assets. Other than portfolio investments, we are also looking for the ways to attract foreign direct investment into our country, and we are trying to lay the grounds for that. Over the past 18 years, during which we have been in office, for financial discipline, we have shown great meticulousness. We will continue to stand with our friends, with our colleagues, with all our citizens who are facing difficulties, but we are not ignoring all the other facts. And we had a target of central administration ratio to national income to be at 4.9%. And the reality is the indicators show that we will close the year with a 4.5% of a budget deficit. And the other advantage that we have for our country is low borrowing rates. In the first half of the year, the global borrowing rates and figures increased up to unprecedented levels. Considering the total global debt, it was more than 220 billion, and it increased up to the level of a figure which is three folds than what it was before. In the UK, it's 500%. In China, it's 337%. In Germany, 268%. The ratio of the total debt to national income, this is. And in Turkey, it is 167%, which is a manageable ratio. In the pandemic period, our banking sector also preserved its capacity. Capital adequacy ratios have been registered, materialized over legal threshold figures. And our banks have now way beyond the minimal levels. For the deferred receivables, our banks have already allocated their provisions, and for the forthcoming periods, our banks do not have any deficit. They even have a surplus of $2.5 billion for supply of resources from international structures. Our banks now have renewed their processes without additional financial pressure on them. In other words, thanks to the strong banking system of our country, local and international investors will be supported because our country has the means, the mechanisms, and the potential to ensure that. My great nation, just like we are aware of our strengths, we are also aware of our weaknesses and the ways of solution. Interest rates, inflation rates, or foreign currency like pillars on which pressure is placed on Turkey will be fought against, and we are exerting a lot of efforts to overcome those. The interest rates and the key rates are tried to be brought down. For the November consumer prices, we have registered an improvement, and this goes the same for the consumption. The foreign currency rates increase in petrol, oil prices, and food prices, of course, had an impact. To reduce the foreign currency risks, we are very carefully putting in policies to practice. Just like we fought against it in the past and brought the inflation rates down to single digits, we will do it this time again. For the current account deficit, we are attaching importance to structural reforms. Our export capacity is sufficient for all sorts of products to be exported. For the byproducts as well, we have a capacity to mitigate our risks. And I would like to open brackets for our defense industry. When we took over, the local production for defense industry in our country was only 20%, but now we have brought it up to 80%. This goes the same for other subsectors of the production and manufacturing sectors. For production, we will be reducing the foreign dependency for byproducts, and we will gain a lot in structural reforms. With our technology-oriented industrial move, in the forthcoming periods in pharmaceutics, in chemistry, medical devices, transportation, and electronics, like technology-oriented sectors, we will be opening new eras. For these products, we will be ensuring the improvement of domestic skills, and we will mobilize all our sources. The policies of this pandemic period will help us shape our post-pandemic period as the winner of it all. The incentives will provide a dynamic workforce. We have the employment capacity and the potential. We have make it all possible for us to make everyone pleased. And we are open to any sort of innovative proposal as long as they are reasonable. The climate that will tackle the threats of the investors will be in place, and we will be, with no hesitation, put all those legal and economic reforms into practice. And for a long time, we have been already working on our reform packages. And with all sections of the society, primarily the business world, we have been making negotiations to make sure that our packages are mature enough. Right after the budget talks, the legal, administrative, and economy packages will hopefully be actualized for law, justice, fairness, security, investment, production, and employment. We are preparing our country for the post-pandemic period. Not only those, but in every other field, we're taking steps to bring Turkey to the level of contemporary civilizations. For example, in our cabinet, we today listened to a presentation about national space studies. And hopefully our flag will be waving stronger in the space before long. And this program, this agenda will be shared with our people in a much more detailed way in the forthcoming periods. My great nation, in Turkey, there are some opposition party leaders and supporters of those who go after a method they have been using frequently. And it is using this method is called using lies as weapons, from our cross-border operations to investment, from our fight against coronavirus to all other steps we take. We see this despicable method being used against us. Even the incidents they face, such as harassment or rape, they have in their own ranks, do not stop them, and only our nation will judge them. The leader of the main opposition party does not say a word about those sexual harassments or corruption or the theft made so far. Have you heard him make any single statement about these things? You have not. How can the leader of an opposition party do such a thing? What kind of leadership is this? And I know and I am sure that our nation will teach them the due lesson. We act on the direction of our civilization and history, and we are going to continue to work to earn the blessings of God and of our nation. But the same mindset when it comes to even such a matter of life as coronavirus, of course, will not speak the truth. We know in our fight against this pandemic, still there are some people who never listen to all the realities put in front of them, but we will never show them tolerance. Turkey is in cooperation with international organizations and within the framework of the standards set forth by them. Turkey is the country that fight against the pandemic in a transparent fashion. The methodology changes regarding statistics have all been made in line with international frameworks of methodologies. We always reiterate three main rules: wearing masks, social distancing, and hygiene, personal hygiene. And starting with the vaccine development activities, we have been keeping a close track on all the developments regarding the pandemic, and we are taking measures and to protect our nation's life, to protect our future. We take steps forward. After the last cabinet meeting, we have made some decisions. Judging by the increases in the fatalities and also the daily case reports, and we shared all those measures with our people. And during our presidential cabinet meeting today, we elaborated on the outcomes of our measures reintroduced, and we know that our nation has started seeing the positive effects of those measures we have taken. As long as we adhere to those policies and restrictions more rigidly, more strictly, we will triumph. And it is a national duty for us all. And we always express our gratitude to our nation for their tolerance. And we express our thanks in form of good news. In this regard, I would like to share some good news. By the end of the year, the income tax for properties was 20%, and it has been brought down to 10%, and it will be in place for one additional year. This goes for the workplace rental fees, and the value-added tax will be 8% for one more year. To mitigate the impacts of the pandemic by the half of the year, from accommodation to transportation. We have made many reductions in value-added tax rates, and it will be extended for another month as well. And we have started some preparations to support our shopkeepers, our craftsmen. There are more than 432,000 craftsmen directly affected by the negative impacts of the pandemic. And for these people, we will be making a payment of 1,000 liras for the next 3 months to come. These will be in form of grants. The tailors, marketplace, shoppers, restaurant keepers, shopkeepers, barber shops, kindergarten, dormitory like places will benefit from that. This way, 1.2 billion liras of support, financial assistance will be given to our craftsmen. Another item for support is the rent payments, and these have been defined with its conditions. If a shopkeeper is renting, then they will be supported with a financial assistance of 750 liras per month in greater municipalities and greater cities, and 500 liras for other cities. So we will be also granting those to our craftsmen. So for the next 3 months, we will this way be providing an assistance of $5 billion for the intangibles, intangible assets of the treasury. And all those deferrals will contribute to the tourism sector as well, and it will contribute by more than 490 million liras for the unmovable assets of the municipalities. Municipalities will also be assisted with certain discounts and also deferrals or postponements of payments. And thanks to those measures, we know that the number of cases have fallen dramatically. This goes the same for daily death toll. In line with the calendar we have for the studies as regards the vaccine, we will share the developments, the good news with our people, and we are keeping a close track on the locally produced and developed vaccine. By the spring, hopefully, we will have produced our own vaccine and administrate it. We will further strengthen what we have gained so far. The lockdowns, the curfews will be in place until December 31. From December 31 to January for a full lockdown. The preschools, except for kindergartens, will be able to continue with their activities. The healthcare professionals who lost their lives due to the pandemic will will have a status, a special status, and the families will receive additional payments, salaries, interest rate free credit lines, reduction in utility prices, and many other benefits. So I would like to ask the Ministry of Family Affairs and Healthcare and Ministry of Health to run this process as smoothly as possible. Momentarily, I am following all the developments, all the studies and works undertaken by the ministry. This will give us a chance to take the normalization steps as we need. Starting with the European countries, we know that many other countries in the world is in a worse condition than us, and this indicates that Turkey is ahead of many others in its fight against the pandemic, and hopefully we will be succeeding in our struggle and work towards our bright future. Before I conclude, I would like to state that I pray for the mercy of God on the souls of those who lost their lives due to the flood that took place in Izmir, and wish for a quick recovery to the injured. I would like to once again thank you all very much. Stay in health.